10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. We have ignition.
Go, flight. You need your ag residuals also. I didn't catch the ag.
I don't think you gave it to us.
Okay, tick looked real good. B-63 when we had it. Flag Fido.
Fido.
Vectors are go. Look real good.
Vectors go.
Flag Telcom.
Roger, Telcom.
He may have locked up on the side lobe. Request we try to reacquire. He's it up to.
Roger.
They're reacquiring at this time.
Apollo 7, Houston, how close are you now?
We're close to about 70 feet. It's tumbling rather wildly, so we're trying to stay away from it.
Roger, understand.
Ready to copy, Jack, go.
Okay, separation pad.
5, 4. Ignition. GR.
The Marshall Space Flight Center had spent years directing development and testing of the Saturn IB launch vehicle, and it was not by chance that Apollo 7 was placed almost exactly on its planned trajectory into orbit about the Earth.
Your Godspeed, Apollo 7. Thrust is okay. Roger thrust. Roll. Roger, roll.
Very early in the flight, the general pattern of go for Apollo 7 was established in a conversation between the spacecraft and mission control at the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas.
Right on the old button.
Very good.
Flight booster. Go.
We appear we may be slightly marginal on rocks. We'll keep it
Okay,
right.
stand by. Cut off. J2 cut off.
Beautiful.
Fido.
Flight Fido, we're go.
Go across the board.
This is the readout.
CMC looks good, flight.
25,553. H dot is minus 4 balls 1.
Across the board, Captain. We have you go for orbit. You're go for orbit.
Apollo 7 was also go for an exhaustive series of tests of its worthiness in space. One of the first things which had to be learned was whether the astronauts could control the spacecraft combined with the S-4B Saturn stage. A very similar thing would have to be done during the early phases of a lunar mission. The answer was not long in coming.
3, 2, 1, mark. S4B test complete. Beautiful.
That was outstanding. Real fine, outstanding.
Next, the spacecraft and S-4B stage were separated. The question now was whether the astronauts could turn their spacecraft around and control it to the degree required for future physical link-ups with equipment in space. For this, too, would have to be done in the lunar flight. And again, the answer was yes.
Was the little flashes like Gemini?
Something that will not be seen in the lunar flight or in any other forthcoming Apollo mission were the panels at the top of the S-4B stage. They will simply be jettisoned in the future, but they drew comment in Apollo 7.
And the slot panel at the top, left, and bottom are opened at I would just be about a 45-degree angle, and the slot panel on the right is just opened maybe 30 degrees at the very best.
Roger. Looks like you're looking at a four-jawed angry alligator.
Apollo 7 escorted its spent S-4B stage through space for perhaps 30 minutes, then departed.
That's the bigger one, Tom.
Rated now?
Yes.
Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful here.
The following day, Apollo 7 burned its spacecraft propulsion system for the first 2 times in the mission and returned to its four-jawed alligator, which was now angrier than ever.
And Apollo 7, Houston, how close are you now?
We're close to about 70 feet. It's tumbling rather wildly, so we're trying to stay away from it.
Roger, understand.
Ready to copy, Jack, go.
In this maneuver, Apollo 7 had accomplished the first rendezvous of the program, and in so doing had proven capable of meeting still another requirement for lunar flight.
1618 plus 1221.
Then, as we were to see in some of the most dramatic film ever returned from space, the crew would settle down to a weightless life in a spacecraft with 4 times more room than Gemini.
Great command. Off. Minimum. Low. Off. AC.
There would be a host of other tests under a host of other conditions. The equipment and systems required to sustain men's lives, to guide and control and propel the spaceship, to provide electric power, to communicate with those on Earth, would time and again prove their mettle. The propulsion system, for example, was burned 8 times, and it behaved perfectly every time.
Off, down and guard. Auto.
The crew worked with a telescope and a sextant, taking landmark and star sightings for navigation, as will be required for lunar flight. The astronauts became accustomed to their home high atop everything. They had a chance to evaluate it as a place to live and work in space.
Set. Set. Is that all?
On the morning of October 22nd, 1968, Apollo 7 began its final revolution, the 163rd. At approximately 259 hours and 39 minutes after liftoff, the spacecraft propulsion system was burned for the final time, and Apollo 7 headed home to Earth. From motion picture film recorded during an earlier unmanned Apollo mission, we get some idea what the trip back through the atmosphere was like.
Splashdown occurred within 1 mile of the guidance system target point at 7:12 Eastern Daylight Time on October 22nd. Recovery of the crew and spacecraft was delayed by the fact that the spacecraft landed in a stable 2 or apex down attitude with its radio antenna underwater. The uprighting system functioned normally to return the command module to the upright stable 1 attitude. The crew was picked up by a recovery helicopter and were safe aboard the USS Essex less than an hour after splashdown. All primary Apollo 7 mission objectives and detailed test objectives were completely accomplished.
I didn't catch the eyes.
I don't think you gave it to us.
Okay, check. Looked real good. P63 when we had it. Flag Fido. Vectors are go. Look real good.
Vectors go.
Flag Telcom.
Roger, Telcom.
He may have locked up on the side lobe. Requested try to reapply.